squad was there, the police, the dog squad chasing me. I managed to jump a couple of fences, dive into Parramatta River. By this time, Pol Air, the helicopter was up there, and also water police. And I'd managed to get to the other side of the river, a massive swim. It was pitch dark, shark-infested river. I could hear the police helicopter above, but I was just like G.I. Joe in the mud, and they couldn't see me, and I got away.
Danny, let's go back to the start because it's a long story. It's a complex story. Tell me about your early life, your childhood.
Now, look, I've told this story many times, and I kind of know it. I had this beautiful, loving mum. A loving mum who is the bomb. I always give her a shout out in everything I do because I truly believe it's her values and morals that I have today that have kind of given me such a big boost in this journey, in the stuff that I'm doing. My dad, he's awesome too, but he was a criminal. Picked up drugs at a young age, at the age of 14.
What prompted that?
Yeah, we done a move. My mum and dad thought they'd give it one last hurrah and try and put the relationship, because they were a bit rocky. And they moved up to Bundaberg, where we already knew a family friend that moved up there previously. The night I arrived in Bundaberg, I got drunk, stoned, and I got on these nitric oxide gas things called they nangs, they're putrid things that kids are doing these days. And basically, it started there. It got more and more over the next sort of 6 months, and ultimately leading to me picking up heroin at 15.
So by 16, you were couch surfing in a boys' home for a little bit?
So by 16, I had been locked up in Cobham Boys' Home for first instant warrants, and also for writing a fraudulent cheque in my name. So I'd been locked up in boys' homes. By 18, I was locked up in Parramatta Prison. Spent my 18th birthday.
Talk to me about that experience.
Yeah,
What's jail like?
Yeah, look. So I'm in Parramatta Prison. I'm 18. I'd already been to boys' homes, not a long time, just 21 days, 28 days stint, and I kind of thought it's weird, but I kind of thought this is my life. I understood that this is probably going to be a lot of my life. Drugs, heroin in particular, really had that feel that, all right, if you're a heroin addict, you're going to be in jail. So what it was like, scary kind of, but I was very reckless. I never had any real regard for, I don't want to say for my life. It's not as if I had a mission to not be alive or anything, but I was gutsy. I would do anything. There was no fear, never held me back.
And that recklessness kind of evolved and got you out of jail, not through any legal means, but you actually broke out of Silverwater Prison.
Yeah, in 2001, on the 6th of February, was my partner's birthday. This is at Silverwater Jail, old Silverwater Jail. I'd previously spent about 2 years in that jail too, and I'd always noticed this little weakness in the security of the fence in one section, and that same spot just happened to be connected to the back of the visiting area. I don't know intentionally, but I had started doing this religious program called Kairos. Honestly, I went because it was really good coffee and biscuits. It was my partner's birthday that day. I had this plan. I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna scale that fence. At the end of the group, everyone's inside holding hands. I've snuck out the back, and I don't know how, but I've managed to scale this 24-foot fence. Back then, I only weighed 65 kilos. I was, had methadone addiction, heroin addiction. I was way more agile. Anyway, I got up onto the top of that fence. I remember as I took that final leap, if I fall, I'm dead. But I got up on top, and as I was still in the middle of the jail at this stage. I'm not free yet. As I was heading towards the perimeter, an officer had spotted me up on the fence. So my plan had been foiled, and he was straight on the radio to the MEU and the police. And by the time that had happened, I just had to run. I jumped through razor wire, cutting my legs to pieces. I launched off the top of this 24-foot fence. I landed on my arm on the ground, so my arm was black from my shoulder to my wrist as I ran down towards Parramatta River, Holker Street, the top of the street. The squad was there, the police, the dog squad chasing me. I managed to jump a couple of fences, dive into Parramatta River. By this time, Polair, the helicopter was up there, and also water police. And I'd managed to get to the other side of the river. A massive swim. It was pitch dark, shark infested river. I'm thinking I'm going to get bit by a shark, but I also thought I got to go. And anyway, I managed to make it to the other side of the riverbed where I was in mud up to my neck in this thick, sludgy mangroves, and I could see the water police just over there. I could hear the police helicopter above, but I was just like G.I. Joe in the mud, and they couldn't see me, and I got away. By the time I hit James Roos Drive, I was kind of clean from the mud, and I managed to pick up a taxi. I didn't mention, but my partner had a big stash of my cash outside, and I got in a cab. He picked me up after I was trying to steal a car. I had no luck. Half an hour later, my mum's house, my dad's house, and her house got raided, and we were off. I got caught.
I was going to say, that was my next question.
I got caught just 7 days later, or 8 days later, on the 14th of February. And I often tell people how it's such a romantic story. It was Valentine's Day.
Mm.
Yeah,
you got out for your partner's birthday and got recaptured.
Yeah, I got caught in Perth, by the way. I got caught in Perth. I thought the New South Wales police, the warrants wouldn't carry interstate, and I thought I'd be sweet, which is kind of true, but New South Wales police come looking for me, and they tracked us down through... I wasn't very clever. I was desperate, really. Yeah. That's what it was.
You talked about, the Kairos program. Did you ever kind of go through any other, I guess, were you praying to anyone, in prison?
Sure.
Did you have, any kind of faith?
Do you know the Kairos program?
Yeah, because we're a Christian station.
Yeah, we're a Christian station. Yeah. I knew that, okay? I thought I knew that, so I'm glad that you've clarified that. Yeah, let's touch on that. I'd never talk about this, but I'm quite... Look, I grew up in private school. Well, I got kicked out of private school in year 8, but still I've had a background, a religious kind of background, which I never followed or did anything right by. However, I entered recovery, or even back then, in my addiction I didn't pray or have any kind, but I've got a big spiritual connection today. I have a faith that there's something out there way bigger and better than me, and I know it's got my back 100% too. If I do the right thing, good things happen. That's been my experience, and that's kind of my spiritual summary. That's what I believe in.
And let's talk about, you say, if I do good things, if I do the right thing, then good things will happen to me. Let's talk about that turning point of your life, when you started to do, quote, the right thing. 14 years ago, you decided, basically, that you were going to stop drugs.
Yeah.
What prompted that decision? That's huge.
Thanks, Georgia. I had attempted detox rehab 49 times. I've been
49.
I've been in. I was known on a first name basis at all of our public systems: Basement 82, Gorman House, Herbert Street Clinic, Who's, William Booth. I've been in and out of all these places, and a bunch of them don't even exist anymore. But to get to the turning point, Christmas Day 2009 was the day my life changed forever. So 14 years ago, I went home. I was in rehab. I went home for a family visit on Christmas Day. And to be honest, I didn't want to go. I was already full of shame and guilt. I'm 60 days clean. Family was the last thing I wanted to do. I wanted to stay at the rehab watching Netflix. But I did the right thing. I got home and I'm sitting around the family Christmas table surrounded by loved ones, neighbours, people I'd all hurt, stolen, robbed from every one of them. I remember just feeling sick with shame. And by the way, I felt that shame for years after. And that day I went home, back to the rehab, and I stood at the turning point. The turning point for me was Town Hall Station. King's Cross was to my right. I had money on me. I was going to buy heroin and cocaine. This was my deal. I was doing it. I'm about to get on. But across the road was a 431. It was the bus that was going to take me back to rehab. And that day, for the very first time in my life, I thought about my decision to do it. Like, an addict doesn't change their mind. If they're about to get on, they just get on. Well, that day, finally, after 49 attempts, I thought, if I go up there, I know what's going to happen. I'm going to end up back in rehab, back in jail, dead, or what would happen if I got on that bus and went back to rehab? And that day, somehow a miracle happened. I didn't pick up that next drug, and one day at a time, one foot in front of the other. I lost the obsession and compulsion to use drugs. I have not come close. I knock on wood every single time I say that, because I've not come close to picking up another substance since Christmas Day 2009. So it really is a miracle,
It's huge.
Yeah.
Look, how you that image of you sitting around the table full
Yeah.
with shame and guilt
Yeah.
with your loved ones. How
Yeah.
did you start to repair those relationships, especially with your son, your
Yeah.
former partner as well? Like,
Yeah.
how did that
Yeah.
start to happen?
Time, one thing, and I think this is quite valid. I wasn't the guy that got clean and wanted to fix all the relationships, right? Now, I tell you, I'd heard, and I've been around for a long time, and I knew I would pretty much make a mistake and be back where I was going to be again. Like, there's no point me trying to fix something if I know I'm going to go back there, which I felt like that for years. I never thought I was going to make it. I really didn't, like I'd had so much evidence to show that I was going to blow this again, it was through my actions I started to make amends. I didn't pick up again. I started going out to see family regularly. I mentioned that feeling of shame and guilt. It made me sick for years later. Like, every time I'd go and visit family, I never knew this back then, right? But I know it now. I'd feel tired. I'd get this overwhelming feeling like. And Mum said to me one day, she said, "Why do you come here and you always feel tired? Sometimes I'd even have a sleep. I'm a year clean, right?
Yeah.
And I'd still have a sleep." And I remember I got quite upset with her for saying it, but and then what would happen is I'd get on the train and I'd wake up every single time, and I started to see that pattern, and I started to realize that shame and guilt has got this physical feeling. Like, it actually impacted me very, very heavily. Like, honestly, the minute I'd get on the train, I'd start yawning. This crazy feeling. And I know it to happen still in my life today. Not so much for that, but some stuff I do is very heavy, the work that I do too. And I'm not completely. I continue to make amends. I continue to move forward. I'm not out of it. I'm certainly no angel. So yeah, it's a heavy, heavy feeling. I think shame and guilt, and no wonder people pick up again. And just on that note too, my message would be to just hold on and keep working hard. And the shortcuts, the loopholes which I tried to take for so long, they never worked. The only way to go through it is to do the work. And I say that too because I've known a lot of people in my journey, in my 14 years, who have had significant amounts of clean time and maybe not worked through that stuff and end up picking up again. And I don't want that. And look, I don't know if I'm doing it right. This is just the way I do it. And thank God I'm still here today. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing
Ah,
that.
that's no problems. That's easy.
Danny, let's talk about Encapsulator, your
Sure,
brand new project.
Yep.
This has been years in the making. You thought
has
of
been.
this concept on your 6th anniversary of being sober. What happened?
Yeah, I was really grateful. I was excited. I just celebrating like 6 years clean. I thought to myself, I wonder what I was like when I entered recovery. Like, what was I thinking? How was I feeling? Very often in my life, and even at 6 years clean, I talk about it all the time because I'm a member of 12-step fellowship stuff, Narcotics Anonymous in particular. So I'd share my stories, but you don't really connect with what it's actually like. Over time, you start to get a bit of a narrative that you tell. And I thought, I wonder what I actually felt. How was I thinking? How was I feeling? And I came up with this idea, this concept to record a video to my future self, which was very ambitious at the time because in recovery we talk about it being a daily program just for today. But I thought I'm going to record a video to myself for my 10-year birthday, and immediately I started the camera rolling. I started talking to my future self. I felt this was such a unique, therapeutic process. This was me talking to my future self. I talked about my mom, my dad, my son. I hoped that everybody was okay. And I remember thinking, I hope I'm still alive too, because so many people in my journey of recovery this past 14 years are no longer with us, for heroin overdose, alcohol related deaths. I also thought, imagine other people in recovery being able to record video messages to their future self. It felt so good and unique, a tool to measure your growth. And after I recorded that video, one thing, it felt incredible. By the way, my daughter didn't even exist in that conversation. And 4 years later, when I watched that video, oh, it gave me such goosebumps. I'm so blessed. On my journey of recovery, I've worked really hard, and I mentioned that earlier, but every single thing I'd hoped for in the future had come true. And really, there's this saying that they say in recovery, if you made a list of all the things you'd want in 5 years' time, you'd be selling yourself short. And it's because it's not about the material stuff. It's about that serenity that I feel inside. But yeah, so all this stuff had come true. And I took a trip to America in 2017, and I met all these entrepreneurs. I traveled from LA to New York doing 12-step fellowship. And I came back to Sydney and I thought, I'm going to turn that concept into an app which has just been released, Encapsulator. So we provide video journal programs. We have 30 expert design programs. Hopefully we'll have 100 soon. And each program is different and unique depending on your needs. We've recently released the Bump to Bliss program for pregnant mums. We've got drug addiction programs. Rather than the old school journal where you'd write, I've brought that to the 21st century. So we're recording video messages to our future self. I should also mention a lot of people are very confronted by the process. And just to let those people know that, like I said, it's completely private, secure, confidential. This is for you. This is for you to help explore some of those emotions. And when we verbalize our goals out loud, it's very beneficial. It helps us to remain accountable and motivated as we move forward.
Yeah.
So that's Encapsulated,
It's
Georgia.
fantastic.
Thank you
I love
so
it.
much.
And Danny, like, not just through Encapsulator, but a lot of your work is in that recovery space, supporting those who are going through recovery, addiction. How does it feel now on the other side of things to be able to give back in that way?
Georgia, I am so, so, so blessed. You would not, but like, I notice it when I go away. Like, I just spent a couple of days with a couple of mates in Melbourne and in South Australia. And one thing I do all day is I have to address the messages they come in, but I respond to every single message I get on my social media with an audio response. Every single message. There's been over 10,000 messages. I respond every single one with a 30-second audio message. And as I'm responding to those messages, I'm reading them out, and it's people often saying, Danny, you've helped change my life. Because of you, I'm doing this. I'm 8 days clean. I just got a message before I walked in from someone saying they're 8 days clean. It's incredible. And I don't really realize that because I just do it during the day. But until I'm with somebody else and they hear me saying those messages and they're saying, Danny, how many of those do you get? It's such a great, amazing spot to be. I also run online groups 3 or 4 days a week. At 11 a.m. where I help teach a whole bunch of tips, tricks and hacks to help people plug into the higher forces of gratitude, as I say. They're mental health workshops funded through NDIS where I have over 30 topics that I choose just to help. Really what I do is I provide a safe place for people to come together, feel heard. I want to hear what people have got to say and hopefully make some good connections with other like-minded people and have them walk away feeling a little bit better for the day. So that's another area that I get some it's beautiful. It's crazy. My life, I go to bed 9 out of 10 nights with like this really full heart. And it's really, I don't take it for granted, but these days it's just what I do every day. It's like I don't notice it until I go away and I have my mates point out to me like what I'm doing. It spins me out.
Danny Shannon, it has been a pleasure. Encapsulator is out now wherever you get your apps. DannyShannon.com.au is your website, and you can see all of what you've got going on. Follow Danny on socials, but it has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, George. If I may just say that it's available on iOS and Android. And my name's Danny Shannon. You can find me anywhere on all my socials. I'm pretty engaged in all that stuff, and yeah, I'd love to hear feedback too. Thank you, Georgia.